Yeah, like the worst 24 hours of my life. So basically, I had like this work event in the afternoon, like a work party. I took my truck, my 2019 GMC Sierra 1500
Very
for those
specific.
who are, specific heads out there. Yeah, so I drove my truck out to this work event. When I came back, so I parked it just at like an apartment complex that was right next to the venue because I was like, I'll just be back in an hour and like no biggie. So I parked my truck at this apartment complex. Sarah and I went to the event. We like ate dinner, came back. My truck would not start.
I thought you went out to a restaurant, and that was in a restaurant parking lot.
No, so we did go to a restaurant, but we parked at an apartment complex. It was just because the restaurant didn't have any parking.
Now I know why you got.
So basically, came back to my truck. It would not start, and every time it like would start for a second, I would try to shift it in gear, and then it would just like roll, like with no control, no power, whatever. And so like it kept like rolling out of the parking spot. And basically like I tried for like half an hour to get it to start, to get it to move, whatever. It was just not having it. It was not working. And so I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'll just have to call an Uber, go home. And then tomorrow I'll like call a tow truck to come pick this up and take it to the dealership when the dealership opens. So I did that. Drove home, and like the entire time on the Uber drive home, I'm like thinking like, fuck, like this is my transmission, like it's gonna cost me like $9,000 to fix this, like it's gonna be fucking, I'm gonna have to replace the whole transmission, like it's fucked. And like that night I was literally looking at like, if I have to replace the transmission, I think I'll just trade in my truck, like sell it and get like a cheap car.
I was gonna say, did you figure out what was wrong with it? I forgot to ask you.
I did.
You gotta get to that.
Yeah, you gotta wait to the end of the story.
I don't even know what's wrong with it. I was meaning to ask you a while back.
I did find out what is wrong with it. But yeah, so went back the next morning, Ubered to where my truck was. Well, first I Ubered to work because I couldn't miss work at the time. I was like the supervisor, and so I couldn't miss.
Big responsibility.
And so before that, I was like, okay, well, let me get a rental car, right? Because I don't want to have to Uber everywhere. So I was like, let me get a rental car so that way I can just like, go to my truck, go to work. So that way I don't have to miss anything and I'm not relying on Uber to get everywhere. And so the night before, I like placed a reservation for a rental car. The next morning, I went to go pick up the rental car. Like I Ubered there at like 7:30 in the morning so that I could make sure that I got to work on time so I didn't like miss anything. And I got to the car rental place, Enterprise. And so they quoted me a price online, and I went in expecting to pay that price. Like I had that much like on my car.
You were under 25.
Well, so I forgot I was under 25, first of all. So they charged a fee. And then they added the state tax on top of it, and then they added a deposit.
Why don't they show tax on the quote?
I don't fucking know.
That makes no sense.
So and then they also added a deposit on top of it. So like it literally says on the email, you are going to pay this much at the counter. And then I got there, and they were like, now there's an extra $500 on that. And I was just like, I don't have that $500 right now, so I guess I'm not doing it. So after the whole rental car situation, while I was waiting for my Uber, I stood on an ant pile. Ants crawled up my legs, bit me all over my legs.
I've been there.
That was super fun.
When I was a young kid, that happened to me.
I was literally like standing in the field outside of this car rental place with ant bites all over my legs, just fucking like crying my eyes out, just being like, what the fuck is like, I felt cursed. So I took an Uber to work. And then at lunch, I was like, all right, I'm going to like Uber over to my truck so that way I can go get it towed, everything like that. So I called the tow truck place. I'm like, hey, I'm heading over here now. Like, if you all can come tow my truck to this dealership. They quoted me a price. All right, everything's fine, right? So I Uber to my truck. It's gone. It has been towed. So now I have like Ubered from my work during my lunch hour. So I'm not eating lunch.
No food.
I Ubered to my truck. It's gone. They towed it. I call the tow company that like is for that area, and they were like, yeah, we have it. And it's going to be $150 to get it out of the impound lot. And I was like, well, the fucking truck doesn't move. So even if I get it out of the impound lot, like I have to call another tow truck to come like deliver it to the dealership. So it's like now my price for towing goes from $250 to fucking like what's that, $400.
You said it was $150.
$150 plus $250.
Oh, okay.
It's $250 for the tow and then $150 for the impound fee. So whatever that fucking adds up to, I'm not good at math.
I already forgot the numbers.
Yeah, so my price is almost doubled for that. So I convinced them to take it to the dealership for me, just like the guys who impounded it, but they still charged me the $250 that I was already quoted. So it was already $400. I guess it is $400. So they charged me $400 to take it to the dealership. And I was like, bro, I spent like $200 on Ubers. I fucking like had to pay the impound fee. Then I paid the towing fee. And now I gotta like wait and hear if my fucking transmission's broken so I can fucking, sell my truck that I love and buy a shitty car at a highly discounted rate. I was like, it was a terrible 24 hours. So I did find out what's wrong with it 2 days later. Luckily, it is not the transmission.
That's good. I was really hoping.
It is a fuel pump issue, and it is covered under warranty. So
have you gotten it fixed, or?
So they were supposed to have it fixed before I left town. Mm-hmm. I told them that I was leaving town on Friday, and they were like, "We'll try to have it done for you, and then if not, we'll just have it when you get back." So it should be fixed now. I just have to call and check on it.
The transmission.
Yeah, if it was the transmission, I was fucked.
By the way, he told me that story through text while I was in the car with my sister and her boyfriend, and I read it out to him as you were texting it, and they felt horrible, but everybody was laughing.
Yes.
It sounded so the way you were typing, bro, because it was fresh off your brain. Like that just happened to you. You were livid, and I was like, oh, this is great content, bro. Like this is, bro, you should have been filming you.
My worst day vlog, POV, me crying in a field.
That was horrible.